Let's finalize and finish quality assurance management theoretical part with test completion management, which I divided into 4 parts. First of all, we need to define run and pass criteria, then define when testing is complete or so-called test completion. Then we need to learn that upon completion you need to release test summary report and you need to provide during your project test execution phase, you need to provide daily your particular project execution status dashboards and distribute them. First of all, test run and pass criteria. You need to define test criteria. Test criteria is established standard rule on which a test procedure judgment is based. If the suspension criteria are met during testing, the active test cycle will be suspended until the criteria are resolved. An example, if your team members report that there are 50% of test cases failed, you should suspend testing until the development team fixes all the failed cases reasons. The exit criteria are the targeted results of the test and are necessary before proceeding to the next phase of development. An example, 90% of all critical test cases must pass. You need to define project test exit criteria. Remember, test exit criteria by specifying a target run and pass rates. Get familiar with terminology, test run rate and test pass rate. A. Test run rate is mandatory to be 100% unless a clear reason is given, and test pass rate is dependent on the project scope, where achieving high pass rate is the goal. For example, you can abandon some kind of cases, however, which means you can skip them out of scope. However, all other test cases are supposed to be 100% run or executed. How to decide when testing is complete? First of all, you need to learn about common problems that occur during software development. Poorly written requirements, usually by business analysts. Unrealistic testing schedule by quality assurance manager or test lead. Inadequate testing efforts by testing team members. Adding new features after development is underway or piling up. It means uncontrollable pile-up of new features, so-called change requests. Poor team communication, or simply speaking, miscommunication inside your quality assurance project team. When to stop testing release and testing deadlines. There are a few points. Test cases are completed with certain percentage passed, or project budget has been depleted, means there are no more available funding for your testing activities. Coverage of code, functionality, or requirements reaches a specified acceptable point. Defect rate falls below a certain level, and alpha or beta testing period ends. How about the summary report which you're supposed to distribute on your testing activities completion? Officially, test summary report is an official evaluation report prepared after the testing phase is over. It is the summary of all tests executed for a specific test design specification, which can provide the measurement of how much testing efforts have been applied for the test, in this case tests, or test suites, or test plan. It also becomes a historical reference for future projects as information provider. What are the contents? First of all, the summary report identifier, description, the test items being reported in this report with the test case IDs. Variances, if any deviation from the test plan's procedures requirements. Comprehensive statement. Describe testing according to the plan and what has not been covered. Results summary, the results mentioned with the resolved incidents and their solutions. Results evaluation, the status of the test results. If the status is failed, then mention its impact and severity level. Summary of activities. Testing execution activities mentioned with resource consumption durations. And approvals. Person names or persons' names who approve the document with signatures and dates. During your specific project, testing phase or testing activities, if you are experienced quality assurance analyst, experienced senior tester, like team lead or quality assurance manager, you are in position or you're simply priming your testing project, you're supposed to know that you have to distribute your project test execution status daily in form of dashboard. Usually it's done as a simple Excel file. There are a few components. First of all, you might mention, this is just an example, usually functional supposed to be complete before regression and regression before performance. You're supposed to mention test cases, what a common count, what was the rate passed, failed, static, and what defects are opened. You might enhance it with some kind of visual, let's say visual kind of dashboard, which somebody might like. However, most importantly, you have to supply your daily project execution status or your project test execution status. Only 3 states. Green, which means that your testing activities or testing project is on go and you are on schedule, you are online, you are in line. Yellow, which means there are some kind of issues, however you can overcome, for example, some kind of major defects, and so or some kind of the testing environment problems or so, and you are stuck. And red, which means the project is practically no go, you cannot continue your testing activities, which means like unresolvable defects are blocking the way. But remember one thing, in reality, in real life, nobody cares about graphs. A few people might care about this table, but mostly your senior management wants to know only project execution status. That's it. Senior management is always looking on very simple status. Your project, your testing project execution status is green. Is it yellow or is it red? That's it. This is real life.